Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 2 of Thessia, our Australia-inspired build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all the support on this series last week. It was really just blowing me away. Thank you for all the support. I'm glad you enjoyed the train-only start. And we're actually going to start today's episode with another little time-lapse, just to help prepare today's area for what we're going to do. We're really going to expand the cargo and industry side of the town of Valkyrie. And we're going to do this actually by removing the cargo station we put in last episode. We're going to move it much further down the line and also introduce some workshop assets into the area today alongside a forestry build, which will be really fun. I'm using lots of dirt roads here. We're taking reference again from our inspiration in Cootamundra in New South Wales, and there's a lot of mud, a lot of overgrowth here. It's going to be a really kind of fun, unique industry area and a really nice starting industry area too. So please enjoy it, and I will catch you guys in the live play. And welcome back to our live play of Thessia, everyone. It's been such a wait just to get back into this sea. Just had such a fun time building it last week, and indeed thank you for all of that support. It really means the world to me. And we had some good suggestions as well from last episode, so we're going to implement a few of them alongside a new asset before we get started in today's industrial build. A few comments to say use building spawn points to actually move the spawn point of the med clinic to the back where we actually placed our ambulance props. So this way the ambulances will spawn out the back of the hospital, which is super cool. I'm definitely happy with that. So let's make sure that we do that as well. Bring that forward. Again, that's a building spawn points mod if you want to do that as well. That should be fun now, right? We'll hopefully see our ambulances go into... There we go. Yes, that kind of makes sense. Does it? We'll have to keep our eye on that and make sure that they do come out of here, hopefully. We'll see that happen today. And then also another wonderful suggestion from the beautiful E6, the map maker himself, to actually use Bob to switch out some of the vanilla hedges, and we have done that. And I did it with one kind of the 16 meter versions, but I think we're going to leave some of the vanilla ones in because we end up with this kind of really cute suburban picture here, right? We have the houses and then the hedge drops down as it moves into someone else's garden. So I think we're going to keep a mix and match of vanilla hedges alongside some workshop ones as well, just to help bring a little more character into our suburbia, hopefully. And also a lot of comments as well to say that this sports field here is actually kicking the ball right into this guy's window. So I think we'll leave it as law, actually. Maybe this guy's in on some sort of insurance fraud, and every time an Aussie football flies through his windshield, he's obviously claiming on his home insurance. So we'll make that law. Maybe this can be where Jerry moves into. Maybe now Jerry's in Thessia, he's getting involved in insurance fraud rather than alien smuggling this time around. And the wonderful Prophet in our Discord server designed a Valkyrie Cats football club sort of logo here, which is super cool. And then the brilliant Scope actually turned it into a billboard for us. So we're definitely going to have this here. Thank you so much for the community art. Absolutely love it when you guys come up with stuff like this. So just so cool to have it in the city already. Thank you so much. So we'll now have the Valkyrie Cats playing at the field, or one of the fields in Valkyrie anyway, and we'll build some more. And then in today's intro time-lapse, you guys would have seen we've just prepared our rail here, and really referencing that photo of Cootamundra to try and bring in some of the industrial vibes that we're seeing. And we've now just expanded that little rail yard, right? Lots of parallel networks running up and against each other. And also a new cargo station. This one is from a little small town Australia collection. And it's absolutely beautiful, right? Proper cute little small town cargo station, and also some new dirt roads too, which have got little muddy decals on them. And we've prepared today's space for an industry build, which I think we're going to base in and around forestry. Oh, look at that. There we go. So fun to see cargo trains moving through this little yard now, isn't it? Tremendously exciting. But yes, some industry to do here today. Again, referencing our inspiration in Cootamundra. So let's have a little look at it, shall we? So looking back over to our inspiration in Cootamundra, the area in this space in the actual town is super muddy. There's very little, if any, concrete at all. So we've just given everything a nice healthy dose of mud surface painted to try and get that vibe in. And we're also going to be playing with a new cargo station today. So last episode we did this one, but we found a cuter one. Again, big shout out to everyone posting assets in the Thessia channel in the Discord. It's all super helpful. And we did have this one from the kitchen wench. The Jefferson grain elevator, which is going to function as a cargo station, which we definitely need in Thessia, of course, because we currently have no road connections for cargo to come in. But we can see we've used network skins to remove the power lines off of this, so that's something we want to do again as well for this asset. So let's go into network multi-tool. We're then going to use the unlock segments section here to unlock that. We're going to delete it and then use our version of the train lines that don't have any power lines on them. Let's draw that back in, and then we can use the tool again to relock them, which now takes the power lines off of it, which is going to be perfect. It's just a case now of we just want to line this up really for where we want this to happen. Yeah, let's go for that. I think that should be a decent shout. So just line them up, and then we can bring the connection in as well. Go ahead and grab those, and cool. So we can now receive cargo again to Thessia, but it's now in the sort of appropriate area, right? So there's a lot of dirt here, so I want to make sure that we keep respecting that if we can. And let's see if we can bring this out on a slightly different angle. And then we'll bring this around the back too. And then we'll have this come up through that way, and that's going to give the connection. And then it looks like you can probably just go back through there. Fantastic. So today's area is kind of be a bit of a weird industry. I'm not after a full-blown forestry area because it's not what's in Cootamundra, and there's not really a massive farm there either. This is kind of like a grain rail yard, I think, but I think I want to kind of theme it after forestry because it also looks like there's a significant bit of sort of lumber production going as well. So I'm going to drop in the forestry main building, which I have bobbed in advance for some of the blue gum trees, which are always a nice treat, right? So let's see if we can start doing a little bit of finagling here. Make sure we don't lose our connection, of course. And then we'll hopefully just have this sat right against this area. Cool. So again, angles are all really important here. There's some very large silos in my inspiration point today, which is going to be important for bringing that vibe home. But I'm going to be happy with those. So we probably actually could use some of the farming silos, even though we're not playing with the farm area. Again, it's going to be a bit of a weird industry, this one, but it will come together, I hope. So yeah, I think we'll probably go with some of the large grain silos too. Again, you guys would have seen in the edit that there's a bit of a weird industry vibe going on around here, but I think we can get on board with it. But definitely keen to have some sort of silo present on the facility, even if it is storing farm products. I am aware of that. But cool, that should give us the sort of look that we're seeing in Cootamundra, right? Wonderful. All these little facilities starting to pop up now. Fantastic. So we're going to be doing some cute little yards, so let's go ahead and grab these dirt roads. Again, this is in the asset collection. If you want to come and use this particular dirt road, and let's start establishing some frames for all these assets to sit against. So it's a lot of yards, basically, is kind of the vibe we're playing with here. So let's filter down into, I actually reckon a good bit of vanilla forestry buildings are going to be really important here for hammering home that vibe, and also they're going to be satisfying some industrial demand for us as well, because we deleted all that industry from last episode. So Thessia currently has no industry in the city, and I think a little bit of move it with some of these vanilla assets is always appreciated, isn't it, just to create that larger warehouse. We could even maybe try and go for sort of a corner unit there. I'm not sure how well that's going to come off though. Maybe if we just pin their roofs together, and then we can perhaps fill some of that space with some prop work, but it will give us a slightly different angled building, won't it? I think I'm pretty happy with that. We're deciding some fencing. There is a little fence perimeter all around this, and I think some of our new wonderful broken chain link fencing is going to be absolutely amazing. So let's throw some of this on a prop line tool. Now there's different variants of this fencing. Again, it's in the asset collection down below if you want to come and play with some of the wonderful assets we're using in Thessia. So we can kind of join like a big line of it with the prop line tool, or prop anarchy now, I guess. And then if we just delete out a segment, and then we can go ahead and grab another one. Let's go for maybe this broken one perhaps. That seems like it's going to be a good shout. Yeah, and then just switch out the occasional piece with like a broken section. And it just makes the most interesting fence. Absolutely love this. I so very rarely browse the workshop because I do like 2 cities a year. But just to see all this new stuff, so good. Absolutely love that. Really fun, everyone, isn't it? Really cool. So of course these are forestry buildings, so we do need to still respect the game mechanics even though we are modded, so we are going to need to provide a natural resource for them. So we'll make sure that there's plenty of trees surrounding our buildings here, if not underneath them, and sort of create these little yards within them. There's also something really fun that we did in and around Ilos's industry for those long-time viewers of the channel that are still here. Is these little props here, the cute little vanilla ones that Eggsy left for us in the pre-detailed prop spaces here. These work like tremendously well for detailing up forestry areas. So we just use Move It to piece them together, and you can kind of see they're just like a jigsaw, right? They sort of slide into each other. You can make these sort of planks of timber as long as you like. And then we'll go ahead and grab some props. Let's double a few of those up. There we go. And then let's grab 2 rows of them. And then with our prop snapping on, we'll copy and paste them. And then we're just going to elevate these up a little bit. So we can now start to create lots of these stacked timber planks. Again, that I'm seeing on the sort of satellite imagery from Google Earth. Just to help create these little detailed areas to expand from our generic industry out here. And we're going to be happy with that, even though they are ever so slightly floating. You bring it down maybe a little bit more, right? But just simple bit of prop repetition really helps with that yard vibe, doesn't it? So I'm happy with this so far. It is slowly already coming together, isn't it? We definitely want to also bring down this little pedestrian pathway as well, so people can walk back and to work here. Exactly where you're going to go, I'm not entirely sure. I think we'll just bring it on a little curve here and then allow people to connect back down onto the road. We'll settle that in with some detail, and I think it should be quite fun. Alright, wonderful. So let's have a little return to node controller. We had some really fun node controller ideas last time. Let's square everyone off here. And also want to hide the pedestrian crossings, I think. So with these roads we're using, they obviously have kind of a bit of a bleed off of their decal, which is fine, but I definitely want to see if we can just to help that settle in a little bit, because it's quite blunt at the moment. So I think what we will do is grab some of our larger stains that we're a fan of, something like that, and then we've got some of these mud decals here too that are actually from the roads themselves. And I think just a little bit of a helping hand to help that texture bleed in. It's just like just a couple of props, but well, I guess these are decals, aren't they, not props? And that's going to help us sort of blend that corner in, isn't it, the entrance into the sort of Cutamunda industry over here today. Should be quite nice. Oh, I love all the train vibes here. It's so good. Lots of more people coming into Cutamunda as well. Absolutely fantastic scenes. I love that they're using the different lines as well and bypassing the station if they're not stopping here. That is very exciting, isn't it? There we go. Tremendous. So we're also playing with a bunch of Bisquickelhausen's train cars. We will be very familiar with these. If any of the train gang are in the comments, you will know what these are. And they're just so good for detailing any sort of industrial area. And we haven't really done a rural forestry yard, rural train yard before. It's always been kind of these major mass industrial production centres. And one of these actually has premium wood timber products on it. So I'm definitely going to be having a few of these as my detail point for this, I think. We're also seeing a number of different sort of cars and trucks lined up as well. Don't really need refrigeration here. And then we can just bring in a few of them just like that, I think, wait. That's going to be really cool. So the first cargo train is leaving, but they clearly need a little bit more room to go here. So we will make sure that we allow for that. Let's come on here and we just want to extend that probably up to there. Looks like it would be a good shout for trains to spawn in. That shouldn't give us a problem anymore. Cool. Well, I'm happy with this so far. Wonderful. So let's continue to add in some more plopped industry because we definitely need to start bringing that demand down. So we've got some generic warehouses here from the workshop which are going to help supply our demand. And they're just kind of perfect, right? We can do lots of prop detailing at the back of these to just expand them a little bit, and they're also very fusible as well. So we can piece a few of them together, just like so. It should give us a pretty good job. Make sure we're not encroaching upon any rail lines. There we go. I love that we've got trains moving through as well. That's constantly going to blow me away throughout this episode. It's always nice to see an active train yard, isn't it? Cool, and then let's have our silos over here as well. Cool. So we'll detail up a lot of this space with overgrowth and stuff come the end. It looks a little bit empty and bare right now, but we'll be able to deal with it. And let's see if we can start piecing together some of these generic industry pieces just to help that vibe slowly come together. So let's see if we can go for that one and that one. Going to give us some more silos here as well, isn't it, to help reinforce that vibe alongside satisfying some more of the demand. These are also firm freight as well, these little 3x3 factory numbers. I think these actually pair very nicely with our main building up at the front here as well. We can have a few of these actually scattered around the rail yard, even maybe further back down towards where Eggsy's prop detailing is. Almost like a little service building for this industry over here. I think that's going to be pretty helpful, isn't it? Nice, lovely addition of that one. Didn't actually realise until I started recording today that this is actually a unique building in a park. I thought this was a cargo station, but I'm so happy to have it in, right? It's a really cute asset. I'll show you where this one is from if you are indeed interested. I believe it's from a collection called Small Town Australia. Yeah, Australia Small Town Collection is the one it's from. Railway Goods Shed. Super good looking asset, really nice. Again, it's all in the collection down below. Well, I'm happy with it. Wonderful. Cool, so again, important we keep checking from all angles as always. We want to make sure that this slowly pieces together how we want it to look. I'm happy with that. There's nothing that's massively offensive right here. I guess we could actually use a car park for the workers here. We do have one a little bit further down, but it's kind of far away now, so I guess we could do with a new one. Let's go for... Actually, I guess out here wouldn't be a horrific shout, and it also kind of gives people an excuse to park up directly next to work and then head off into the yards. So let's run with that. Of course, we'll run with poorly maintained. And it doesn't need to be a massive one. Let's turn off all our snapping. And we'll go for something like that. Choose node controller, and then we'll turn that into a bend. Then we want to close that offset so the car park sharpens up a little bit. And then we'll get some disabled action up at the top for people that need closer access. And then we can throw in some of these side spaces. Cool. So that'll give us a little car park in the facility. People can hop out and get straight to work. Fantastic. So these guys are functioning alright, I think, aren't they? Yes, everyone's at work. No complaints. Everyone's wonderful. Cool. So let's return to the idea of ploppable forestry. There's not a vast amount of assets in here, to be honest, that are sort of going to give us a massive amount of variation, but we can still make it work. We can also use a little bit of ploppable farm in here as well if we want, because we do have a fair bit of fertile land in this area. And I don't think they're massively dissimilar, are they? You can definitely get away with them. Because again, just glancing back to our satellite imagery inspiration in Google Earth, which is always such a massive help for me for building. There's just lots of warehouses here with a ton of props between them, basically. That's definitely the vibe we want to create. Nothing too big. We really want the silos and the train station to take the eye. We just want to add a lot of surrounding here. But again, this is plastered and crap vanilla trees, so let's ask Bob to help. We'll get rid of the bushes, just no thank you, and I think we'll probably just get rid of the trees as well. I think what we will do is, during our main time lapse in, we'll just add in some faithful Thessia palette as and when needed, things like this, and decorate it up ourselves rather than relying on where the assets spawn in with the building to help. That's going to be grand, isn't it? Love it. Cool. So we can have farming and forestry together, at least in modded anyway. Couldn't do this in vanilla. Okay, so as things are developing here, I think I want to just slightly rework the train configuration here so the cargo station can be omnidirectional and to both directions, just only hooked into one at the minute. So I think we're going to actually rework our roads here to not actually form a rail crossing. We're just going to have them come on an angle and a road length and possibly a guideline as well. I just want to hook them into there, which will give us the connection for the main building, which is great. And then with the train line, I'd actually like this to just anarchy in, possibly to about there, which will allow it to now flow down this line and then receive cargo traffic from this direction, which should of course just help with bringing more cargo into the city. So of course we are playing with a industries area. We should make sure that we have some industries functionality here, and I think I'm just going to extend my industry area out, and then we're going to grab some of the large tree sapling fields, which I think I'm happy with. Let's see what we can do here. Is there? I think the field one is better, isn't it? So then we can have one of these sapling fields here, and then we'll use that as an excuse to kind of blend out of this sort of industry area, and then back into some residential that will also lie out here as well. So we'll scatter down some bushes. So as it's raw resource, let's go for 2 of these large sapling fields. Again, I'm not after like a massive mega forestry area here. That should do us, I think. So that's going to add DLC functionality, which will allow it to process. And then I think now we can also partner some of these other buildings with us. Like engineered wood plant, which will really help. I probably want to bob off that car parking space though. Not massively sure I want that to be here. That's going to sit in nice against our rail yard, isn't it? And you could also do a sawmill as well, I guess. Probably set up a separate area for those though, I imagine. Cool. And then we also want to do the same thing here as well in terms of just removing the road crossings off of that main rail section there, I think. So we've got some roads going up here, and again I want to use this as an excuse to satisfy a little bit of generic industry. So I think we're going to have a little dirt road here that meanders up the hill. We can use network multi-slope eventually to sort out any horrific gradients that make themselves known. But I definitely want a little point of administration up here for our wind turbines, which I think again we can piece together a little plot of assets to help with that vibe and also satisfy generic industry. So let's have this dirt road kind of meander between all the wind farms. So it's like, you know, they have service road access to them. And we can possibly piece together actually some of these little numbers, the little sort of transformer units, and maybe try and create something of a transformer area, even though I don't think in wind turbines the transformers are directly next to them, are they? I imagine that process is probably handled elsewhere. But we don't have to obey the laws of real life, of course. So slow down some of these. Yes, we will of course move them over. Okay, so let's bring them in. Put them back down again to the same level, and then we can probably add in kind of a final little generic industry warehouse here to round out these little transformer things onto the back of them like that. And let's say go to the same height, and then we can possibly bring this node here down a little bit as well. Okay, see the Williams sign poking through there. Let's move it back a little. Again, it's all about finding excuses to use these little generic industry buildings, because mass zoning it is kind of a vanilla thing and can look really badly. We try and avoid that as much as possible, even in our vanilla builds. So it's definitely something we pretty much going to ignore entirely for a modded build. But just another excuse to form a little generic industry yard that's going to keep satisfying this bar. Again, there's various and pretty much endless combinations of it. So this is an extremely steep road, isn't it? It's very, very steep. Let's use network multi-tool to help with that. So we'll come into it again. Let's go ahead and grab the set slope function, and we'll go from here, hopefully down to here, and then we'll hit enter. That's going to give us an even worse gradient, but smooth terrain will help with this. So let's come into our terrain tools, and then we'll grab soften, and then we just want to ease out that new cliff face that spawns in. Also gives us a chance to do some nice rock detailing up here as well. Cool. And that should give us a much more sensible ascent up, hopefully. And we need to remove all of these trees here as well. Fantastic. Wonderful. So it gives more purpose to our wind farms now, doesn't it? I'm pretty happy with that. And thinking, again, just kind of as the build develops, we could actually extend this train line out here that is hooked into an actual line to actually flow out of Valkyrie. I don't think I'd be totally averse to that, although the gradient here isn't going to please the train police. I will sort this out, don't worry. We will not make it that steep, but I think just maybe a train line leaving town, and there's kind of this valley's begging to have a train line fed through it, isn't it? And then we can use that as an extension of the cargo network that will also meet up eventually from this direction as well. So we can start to plan in some of that larger train infrastructure as well. Where are you going to go now? Let's see. Yeah, he's going to take the right turn out of the yard, isn't he? And cool. Okay, at least the cargo and import-export function is working for Thessia, because it's super important we don't lose that, because of course there's no highways. But it's not bad, is it? It's slowly coming together. I do like these here. What I do want to do actually now is just go ahead and throw down some of our commercial or residential tags, our single-story home vibe here. And then let's just see if we can start to get some surrounds against our industry here, and I'll hopefully be happy with how that's going to look. Should be a nice little blend, I think, out of this. Yeah, again, we've been in the street views around Cootamundra. We're seeing kind of tree-lined streets here, and I'm pretty happy with that as a merging out of the industry area. Maybe a little bit of fencing here might be welcome just against the back of the plantations. Okay, so I'd like to turn my attention now towards some larger infrastructure over this end of the facility. Including, I think we're actually going to bring in the cargo station we used last episode, just because it's sort of more industrial infrastructure, which is really what I'm trying to generate here. So with that in mind, let's see if we can combine that cargo station with our generic industries, or actual service industries here, right? So we've got water treatment and garbage to play with, and now we can probably do with reworking these as well. So it's a small cargo train station we want to use, and it'd be good if we could get it to line up with this one here. Now I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work with the rail configuration. We might need to do some jiggery-pokery in a second, but we'll see what we can do. So let's redraw these connections in. Take it back to there. That's going to be wonderful. So we want to make sure that this is kind of prioritized. So let's have this one going there. That definitely has a mainline connection now for imports coming in, which is great. And then this can hopefully cross over and into that rail there, which will allow that one to continually export too. Maybe a little bit messy with the power lines. I think it is actually. So we will downgrade actually to the networked skinned ones, so we don't have the power lines on them. Cool. And then this is just decorative train line, really, this one-way network, so we don't massively have to panic about how this is going to fit in. We work there. If we do that, Mr. One-Way Network, we're going to be happy with that. Should maintain all our other rail connections, and you should blend into that rail junction there by yourself, I think. Cool. Yeah, okay, so that's going to give us 2 import-export hubs now for Thessia, which is going to be great. I think also in the time-lapse I'm going to move the water source for Valkyrie Creek up the hill a little bit and surround it with some rocks so it kind of comes down the hill. Kind of starts a little bit abruptly here, doesn't it? So we'll fix that in the time-lapse. Wonderful, more imports and exports coming and going. This, of course, needs to be detailed, but I bet we can do some nice fusing with our recycling centres here, maybe on a little angle, if we can help it. Gives us some more room for property to turn around there, doesn't it? Which is nice. And you're going to fit in there? I think you probably will, won't you? Yes, I think we can get away with that, can't we? We'll just have that tucked in alongside. Shift some angles and whatnot. Plenty of space for overgrowth and props to sit in around there. Eventually too. Here comes another cargo train. Interesting, he's taking that second line, isn't he? He doesn't want to go down the passenger line, which I guess is okay. Yeah, it might be a little too curvy for a train. Maybe it wants to be on a slightly sharper angle. We'll check that anyway. So starting to generate some larger vibes up here now. So let's return to Industries DLC. And let's get some chunkier numbers in if we can afford it. So let's go for the maintenance building. This one's always a faithful, isn't it? Nice large assets. But, you know, nothing too tall either. That's what I want to avoid. Definitely like a pulp mill would be sort of way too industrial for the vibe I'm trying to create here. But that's okay, yeah. That's not too bad. And I think might be able to get... How's the actual industry area doing? It's a small deficit at the minute. It's producing 13 tons of product, majority of which is being exported. Can we do the biomass plant? That's going to give us paper, isn't it? Which is the resource we're not producing at the minute. So we might as well add in that one as well. I think there's also the sawmill. There's so much choice. So much choice. How about a biomass plant then? And let's see if we can tether this onto the edge of maintenance building. But all this fence in here is annoying me, so we're going to actually return to network multi-tool again. We're going to unlock the segments of all of this network fencing, because I don't need it here. And then once it's unlocked, you can actually just delete it off of the asset itself. Enable multi-tool, super handy mod. Then hopefully now that should make that fusing into the side of that essentially just large warehouse looking thing a little bit more organic, and we can possibly just adjust our road network here as well if need be. Yes, you don't have a connection, even though the truck drove into you anyway, so lying to me. Just have a little road through there, right? And possibly a touch more. I guess network multi-unlock is what we would call this. Cool. There we go. So just partnering that now with the maintenance building gives us a much more cohesive industrial facility, doesn't it? Also going to help increase the effectiveness of the actual industry area itself too. And it's not too daunting either, you know, just a nice little sensible rural sort of Cutamundra inspired industrial facility here. Don't think I hate that. Pretty alright. It was one more thing we had suggested last episode, and that was to actually add some pedestrian crossings onto this road where needed. So we're going to add a crossing node right here. That's wonderful, so people make use of the parks. And then I also want to turn this node here into a crossing as well. And a little bit of move it there just to line that up with the pathway. Cool, so hopefully we'll see a bit more people actually make use of this space here now, rather than having to walk all the way around the edge all the time. Thank you for the suggestions. I always miss things like that, so it's really nice to have you guys remind me that we can actually do that. There we go. Already getting used now, isn't it? So I hope we see this get a little bit busier too, and actually get some use, which will be cute. All the cargo trains now, right? Super busy cargo export coming in and out of Thessia, which is what we want to see. But I think I'm pretty happy with it, and it feels like a nice place for a detailing time lapse. We're going to come in now. Lots of overgrowth, again, inspired by the rail yard in Kuta. We've got a lot of overgrowth to put through here. Tidy up any surface painter rocks and bring that mountain forest down toward it, move our water source back up a little bit, and then just throw in some more plopped residential to help surround our area as we do actually start to leave Valkyrie as we head up this way. I imagine we'll head to some kind of industrial centre over here at some point, but that is a pretty long way away. Great suggestions last time as well for lots of towns here. We're going to have like a vineyard town, little sort of surface town as well, so please keep the suggestions coming for different communities to sprout up around the Thessian island chain. And next episode we're going to sort of carry on growing out Thessia. I think that's how we'll kind of run with the format of Thessia, is we're going to maybe spend 5, 6, 7 episodes on each town, developing all its services and everything it needs, and then we can head elsewhere and keep sort of running with that format. So hopefully that sounds like something you're going to enjoy. I hope so anyway. I hope you are if you made it this far into the video at least. But either way, let's detail up Valkyrie's industrial train yard, and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So up and around our windmill service point, we've added in some more fused industry and also given it a little fence border around the back using some corrugated iron workshop fencing that we have. Oh, look at the volcano over there. That's so good. Absolutely incredible. I can't wait to name the volcano with you guys. But then the fused, just changed these fusings around a little bit. Also throwing in a new one, a little bit of nature reserve fencing using intersection marking tool. So no nodes used, thankfully, and what a wonderful view these guys have from work, right, looking over the current town of Valkyrie. But either way, let's head down over there. We'll start from this end of the industry. Over this way, where we've added in some lights here too, alongside some more fused industry, and then we have some more cargo trains here waiting to be loaded, where we've also got a truck waiting with some sort of plain timber on the back already. Forklifts and general sort of timber and industrial props all lining up outside this really cute asset that we placed in at the start, just so it's like a side loading area. And just look at the view from here. Massively happy with this. We've really hit those Cutamundra vibes here. Again, I'll flash that picture up on screen, but what a wonderful reference point to work from. So we come down into lots of overgrown rail, lots of people using our elevated pathway here as well, where we arrive into a double fusing over this side next door to our main building, which now has the car park around the back, with some tasteful prop work through these spaces, including these little grass bits, more forklift trucks, containers, etc. Little open trucks here as well. Dropped in the sawmill, of course, which now has its fence border all the way around it, and really happy with the bleed from residential into industrial here. Love the sapling fields opposite the homes too. That's such a vibe, isn't it? I really like that. It's also just a point as well, it's very freeing playing with mods and not having to follow Phoenix's Mar grid. It feels like a totally new game again. I'm really enjoying the kind of organic flow of these industrial areas. Anyway, more truck and trailer props in and around our main factories, and these guys are standing in some plain timber as they cut it up, of course. And then there's more plain timber props around with scuff and dirt and mud marks all over this concrete. Lots of overgrowth in and around this old rail yard here next to a cargo station. And then we spill around the back of this here into another road where I've also dropped in a sub-building from the forestry stuff. So this is essentially just this building right on its own. This one in the middle. You can actually get it as a sub-building and just place it in, which I thought would be a nice little warehouse sort of vibe for the back of these generic industries, and also dropped in some trucks from sub-buildings as well. Maybe just workers that work around this site. There's a little fleet of vehicles for them to use. Lots of overgrowth and tree detailing in and around the rail lines, and I really love this rail yard. Definitely one of the smaller ones we've done on the channel, but it's worked out really nicely and also allowed us to transition away and out eventually through this valley with a train line, which will be quite a lot of fun. But we're a long way from that just yet. And then we come into some more car parking with bushwork around it. Dropped in some of the extended fencing from the water treatment plant, so it kind of creates a little yard around the back of it, and then threw in some container props in there as well. A little recycling centre on an angle works really nicely, and then lots more of the containers that come with our secondary cargo station here. Just flesh them out so it expands that natural barrier, and then fused in a recycling centre onto the back of some more of these workshop warehouses, which I thought worked really nicely. We did have a little bit more demand for garbage processing, so it's nice just to be able to snap one of these little modular recycling centres onto the back of it like that, and works pretty nicely. I'm really happy with that yard at the back. And then the biomass plant now has more trucks and props outside of it, more decal scuff marks to help just rough it all up and give it a bit of age and sort of weathering, if that makes sense. More open warehouses over here as it spills onto the overgrown rail again. And we'll give a little top-down view of the facility here. It's just turned out so nicely. It's such an organic space, and working with that reference point in Cutamundra's given us an idea I never would have thought of. You know, like I wanted the silos in here, so we was actually storing crops for whenever we need it. And I imagine we will have some farmland to help bleed out of Valkyrie once we actually come to build this area at the foot of the mountain. So that'll be fun for that. But I'd never considered building a yard like this without Cutamundra's inspiration. So, you know, Google Earth again just proving to be so massive in putting together these really fun, cohesive builds that, again, without, I would have never have thought to piece all this together in this sort of fashion and respect the sight lines that we find in the real world. And then up at the top of Valkyrie Creek, it now leaves some rocks, which gives it a little bit more of an authentic sort of mountain spring vibe. Indeed, as it does sit above Valkyrie. And what a wonderful view from here, right? The town of Valkyrie is already so big. And just loving it so much. Next episode, we're going to come and start growing the town out again, focus on this central mall, and get down to the riverfront and do some really fun things around here, hopefully. We'll see indeed what we can do. Otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out equally as much. If you haven't enjoyed it, leave me a dislike as well. A really fun project today in sort of just sprucing up and spicing up our generic industry as a much more fleshed out area, and really happy with the blend from Valkyrie into Valkyrie's industry. We're actually using sort of 3 different types of industry. We've got a tiny bit of farming, a fair bit of forestry, and a lot of plopped generic industry as well. That's really just helped to balance the bar again for Valkyrie, because it was screaming for some proper industry, which we now finally have. And also as well, staying true to our train only start. Now we have 2 import and export facilities for the trains to bring goods into the city, and we'll have to make sure that we keep on top of that as well, at least until we tap into the national road network. Please do enjoy some cinematics, but I'll shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.